One day, everything feels perfect. The conversations flow effortlessly. The connection feels strong, and there's a sense of certainty that she's just as invested as you are. But then, almost without warning, something changes. She becomes distant. Her replies take longer, her enthusiasm fades, and suddenly, the warmth you once felt is gone. You tell yourself not to overthink it, but the silence speaks louder than words. Your mind races through every possible reason. Was it something you said, something you did, or worse, something you didn't do? The instinct kicks in to fix it, to reach out, to get answers. Maybe if you just send another message, maybe if you call, maybe if you remind her how much she means to you, things will go back to how they were. But deep down, something feels off. You sense that the more you try to pull her back, the further away she drifts. And that's when the fear sets in. The fear of losing her, the fear of being alone, the fear that you weren't enough. It's a feeling that can consume you if you let it. But what if this moment isn't something to fear? What if it's not the end of the story, but the beginning of something greater? Stoicism teaches that true strength isn't found in reacting to every emotion, but in mastering them. Instead of seeing this as a crisis, see it as a test of your ability to remain grounded when the world around you feels uncertain. The urge to chase, to demand answers, to seek validation is strong, but real power lies in restraint. The less you try to control things outside of you, the more control you gain over yourself. Right now, it might feel like you have to do something, say something, prove something. But what if the best thing you could do is nothing at all? What if, instead of reacting, you simply let go and allowed things to unfold as they're meant to? In the next few minutes, you're going to see why learning to embrace uncertainty isn't just the key to handling relationships. It's the key to mastering life itself. So stay with me. And before we go any further, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in this situation? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. It's natural to want answers. When someone we care about starts pulling away, our first instinct is to fix it, to do whatever it takes to bring them back. We convince ourselves that if we just say the right words, make the right moves, or prove our love, everything will return to normal. But here's the hard truth. No matter how much effort you put in, you cannot control how someone else feels. And the more you try, the more powerless you become. Love and attachment have a way of making us forget this. We believe that if we care deeply enough, if we show enough devotion, we can influence someone's emotions. But Stoicism teaches something entirely different. Suffering comes from trying to control what is outside our influence. The moment you start believing that your happiness depends on someone else's choices, you hand over your power. You become reactive, desperate for validation, waiting for their approval to feel whole again. But that's not love. That's attachment fueled by fear. This is why chasing always backfires. The more you reach out, the more distant she becomes. The more you try to win her back, the less value you hold in her eyes. It's a paradox, one that feels cruel, but is rooted in psychology. When something is too available, it's taken for granted. When you make someone the center of your world, they often start looking for an escape. Not because they're unkind, but because neediness is the opposite of attraction. We are drawn to confidence, independence, and strength. And when you chase, you show none of these qualities. So what's the alternative? It's not about playing games or pretending not to care. It's about recognizing your own worth. True strength isn't found in proving yourself to someone else. It's found in self-control, detachment, and patience. Detachment doesn't mean shutting off your emotions or acting indifferent. It means accepting reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. It means understanding that if someone wants to be in your life, they will be. And if they don't, no amount of chasing will change that. When you stop trying to force things, something incredible happens. You shift from a position of weakness to a position of power. You no longer seek validation because you've already given it to yourself. And that energy, calm, self-assured, unshaken, doesn't go unnoticed. People respect those who respect themselves. They are drawn to those who move with certainty, not desperation. The question is, will you keep chasing what's slipping away? Or will you step back, focus on yourself, and let what's truly meant for you find its way? When someone pulls away, it feels personal. It feels like rejection, like proof that you weren't enough. But what if it's not a punishment at all? What if it's something else, something far more important? The truth is, moments like these are tests. Not tests in the sense of someone playing games, but tests of who you are when things don't go your way. How do you respond when you're faced with uncertainty? Do you crumble, or do you stay composed? Do you let fear dictate your actions, or do you hold your ground? Marcus Aurelius once said, "The obstacle is the way." In other words, the very challenge that feels like your downfall is actually your path to growth. When she pulls away, it's an opportunity to build emotional strength, to prove, not to her but to yourself, that your happiness is not dependent on someone else's presence. Most men don't see it this way. They react. They let panic take over. They send message after message, searching for reassurance, hoping that if they just say the right thing, everything will go back to normal. But this kind of reaction doesn't bring someone closer. It pushes them further away. Think about it. If you fall apart the moment things don't go your way, what does that say about your resilience? Women respect men who can handle uncertainty without losing themselves. Because life is uncertain, relationships are unpredictable, and the last thing anyone wants is to be with someone who breaks under pressure. Strength isn't just about physical power or financial success. It's about how you carry yourself when things feel out of control. When you can look at a situation that triggers your deepest fears and still remain calm, still stand tall. That is true confidence. That is what earns respect. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending you don't care. It means acknowledging your feelings without letting them dictate your actions. It means understanding that wanting someone is natural, but needing them in order to feel whole is dangerous. Detachment doesn't mean pushing people away. It means recognizing that you're already complete, with or without them. And when you reach that place, something shifts. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop looking for external validation. And ironically, that's when people start noticing you differently. So, when faced with this moment, you have two choices. You can react with fear, letting your emotions control you, or you can see this for what it really is, an opportunity to build resilience. The obstacle isn't in your way. The obstacle is the way. And the man who embraces this truth, he doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, he simply keeps moving forward. Most people don't realize this, but we don't truly value what is always there. We take it for granted, assume it will always be available, and sometimes even lose interest entirely. But the moment something becomes scarce, the moment it's no longer easily within reach, we start to see its true worth. This is one of the most powerful lessons in life and relationships. Desire is not created through constant presence, but through absence. The less someone has to work for your attention, the less they appreciate it. This doesn't mean playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It means understanding a fundamental truth. People are drawn to what feels valuable, and value is determined by how rare something is. If you are always available, always reaching out, always making sure she knows you're there, you remove any sense of mystery, any reason for her to wonder about you. But when you step back, not out of anger, not out of manipulation, but out of self-respect, you create space for her to feel your absence. And in that space, something interesting happens. She starts to notice. She starts to wonder why you're no longer chasing, why you're no longer so easily accessible. And that uncertainty makes her think about you more than any text or call ever could. Stoicism teaches the power of detachment. But detachment doesn't mean coldness. It doesn't mean shutting yourself off from emotion. It means composure. It means being in control of yourself, instead of letting your emotions control you. Instead of clinging to someone who is pulling away, you redirect that energy inward. You focus on yourself, your growth, your discipline, your purpose. And the moment you do this, you shift the entire dynamic. You are no longer the one seeking validation. You are no longer the one waiting for a response. You are simply living your life, moving forward with confidence, and allowing what is meant for you to naturally align with you. And here's the most powerful part. By the time she starts noticing the shift, by the time she begins to wonder what's changed, you won't be in the same emotional state you were before. You won't be waiting for her to reach out. You won't be hoping for her validation, because through the process of stepping back, you will have gained something far more valuable than her attention. You will have gained control over yourself. And when a man has that, when he no longer needs to chase, to prove, to beg, that's when he becomes someone who isn't just wanted, but respected. Something interesting happens when you stop chasing, when you step back and focus on yourself, when you stop desperately trying to hold on to someone who was pulling away. A shift occurs. Absence breeds curiosity. Silence becomes louder than words, and suddenly the very person who seemed uninterested starts to notice your absence. Maybe she reaches out with a casual message. Maybe she reacts to something on social media. Maybe she finds a reason, any reason, to start a conversation. It might seem small, but it's significant. Because when you stop giving away your attention so freely, when you become someone who is not so easily available, people take notice. But here's where most men make a mistake. The moment she reaches out, they rush back in, desperate to restore things to how they were before. They take it as a sign that everything is back to normal, that she has finally realized what she was missing. And in doing so, they undo all the progress they made. They immediately start over-investing again, putting her back on the pedestal and falling into the same patterns that pushed her away in the first place. But true strength is in patience. Just because she reaches out doesn't mean you should drop everything. Respond, but remain measured. Keep the interaction light. Maintain your focus on yourself. Show her, not through words, but through your actions, that you are still the man who doesn't chase, Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." And this is where your reaction is everything. If you respond with the same energy you once did, if you immediately make her the center of your world again, then nothing has changed. But if you remain composed, if you maintain your sense of self-respect and self-mastery, you prove that you are not controlled by external validation. You prove that your happiness and sense of worth do not depend on whether she gives you attention or not. This isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulation. It's about self-mastery. It's about understanding that the only way to truly attract someone, whether it's her or anyone else, is by being a man who values himself, a man who is not shaken by someone else's uncertainty, a man who is in control of his emotions, his actions, and ultimately, his life. And when you operate from that place, you don't need to chase, you don't need to beg, because the person who is in control of himself, that's the person who naturally commands respect. When she finally reaches out, when the silence is broken, it might feel like a victory. A part of you may want to believe that everything is back to normal, that she has realized your worth, that the struggle is over. But this is where most men lose themselves again. The moment she sends that message, they jump at the chance, treating it like the answer to all their problems. They respond too quickly, too eagerly, showing her once again that she holds all the power. But a man who has learned from his past mistakes, a man who has embraced the principles of Stoicism, knows better. He knows that his worth was never dependent on her attention in the first place. If she comes back, your response should be the same as before. Calm, confident, and measured. Do not overinvest. Do not act as if her presence is some kind of prize. Instead, treat it as what it is, just another moment in life. Neither something to celebrate, nor something to chase. You are still the same person who has grown, who has focused on himself, who has learned the value of patience and restraint. You don't lower your standards simply because she is back. If she truly values your presence, she will show it through consistent effort, not just a single message or a fleeting moment of attention. This is where boundaries matter. Your time and energy are valuable. A man who respects himself does not allow someone to come and go as they please. If she wants to be in your life, it has to be on terms that align with your self-respect. If she is still unsure, still playing games, still testing your limits, you remain grounded, because you are not desperate for anyone's approval. You are not waiting for someone else to decide your worth. You are in control of yourself, and that control is the greatest power you can have. There is an old proverb, one that echoes the teachings of Stoicism. He who controls himself is mightier than he who controls a city. True strength is not about controlling others. It is about mastering yourself. It is about remaining steady even when emotions try to pull you in every direction. It is about standing firm in your values, no matter what happens around you. If she comes back and aligns with your standards, great. If she doesn't, she has simply removed herself from your path. And that, too, is a gift. Because the right person, the person who truly sees your value, will never require you to lose yourself just to keep them around. Not every relationship is meant to last, and that's okay. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, but it's also one of the most freeing. When someone pulls away, when they drift out of your life despite your best efforts, the mind naturally searches for reasons. What went wrong? Could you have done something differently? Could you have fought harder? But the truth is, some things are simply beyond your control. No matter how much you give, no matter how deeply you care, some people are only meant to be in your life for a season, not a lifetime. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And nothing wastes more time than holding on to something that is no longer meant for you. Clinging to the past, replaying old memories, wishing things had turned out differently. These are all forms of resistance, an unwillingness to accept what is. But a true Stoic understands that loss is a part of life, that change is inevitable, and that suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from our refusal to let go. Letting go is not weakness, it is strength. It takes far more courage to walk away with dignity than to desperately hold on to something that no longer serves you. It takes discipline to accept that not everyone will stay, that not every love story has a happy ending, and that sometimes the greatest lesson a person can teach you is how to move forward without them. True power lies in acceptance, in understanding that your worth is not tied to whether someone chooses to stay or leave. When you accept this, something incredible happens. You stop living in fear of loss. You stop defining your happiness by someone else's presence. You stop wasting time trying to rewrite a story that was never meant to have another chapter. Instead, you focus on what is within your control, your own growth, your own purpose, your own peace of mind. And when you do that, you realize that no relationship, no person, no external validation is ever worth losing yourself over. The ability to let go with grace is what separates those who are ruled by their emotions from those who have mastered them. The man who can accept loss without resentment, without bitterness, and without losing his sense of self, that is the man who is truly free. And freedom, above all else, is what makes a man truly powerful. The true victory is not in getting her back, but in becoming the best version of yourself. So many men believe that if they can just say the right words, do the right things, or prove their worth, they can win her back. But that mindset is flawed from the start, because it still places your happiness, your sense of self, in someone else's hands. The real win is realizing that your value was never dependent on her in the first place. You don't need to chase her, convince her, or prove anything. What you need is to shift your focus entirely away from her and onto yourself. Chase self-improvement, not validation. Every second spent overanalyzing her actions, every moment wasted wondering if she'll come back, is energy that could be used to build yourself into the kind of man who doesn't need to ask those questions. Strength, discipline, and purpose. These are the qualities that naturally attract people, not desperation or neediness. When you elevate yourself, your energy shifts. You stop looking outward for approval and start creating a life so fulfilling that no one else's validation is required. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The pain you feel, the anxiety, the overthinking, it's all rooted in a fear that exists mostly in your mind. The truth is, you are not losing anything. You are gaining something invaluable. The opportunity to become the man you were always meant to be. Instead of waiting for her to see your worth, prove it to yourself. Instead of trying to be the man she wants, become the man who doesn't need to be wanted. Focus on purpose, growth, and discipline. These are the foundations of real confidence, the kind that isn't shaken by someone else's choices. When you commit to this path, something interesting happens. True attraction follows strength. when you're no longer seeking validation, when you're no longer making decisions based on whether or not she notices, you naturally become more desirable. And here's the irony. If she doesn't notice, someone else will. But by then, it won't even matter to you, because your happiness will no longer be tied to external approval. This is the mindset shift that changes everything. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop seeking something outside yourself to make you whole, is the moment you become truly powerful. This is not about games. This is about building a life that is so rich, so full of purpose, that you never have to wonder whether someone wants to be a part of it. They will either recognize your value, or they won't. And either way, you will be just fine. If this resonates with you, take action. Like this video, subscribe, and watch the next one. It's exactly what you need to hear next. But most importantly, start today. Don't chase, level up. Because the best version of yourself is waiting, and the journey begins now.